One of the 48 ideas of getting close to engage with Torah study, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot in Ethics chapter 6 said, "B'mi'ut shena," a person should reduce the amount of time of sleeping. The idea is when a person involved in every moment of his life with study Torah, then the quality of life turned to be a total difference. Over the years, many of us can attest to the fact you go to a senior home, you see people on a wheelchair who physically hardly move, yet you see people who are well-known generals and well-known important people, and unfortunately no one cares for them. But I noticed over the years, when it comes to a scholarship, Torah scholars, in Israel in particular, you have great rabbis like the late Rav Eliashiv, Rav Shach, Rav Wozner, many that reaching, some of them past the 100 years of age, yet there is a stream of people that come and ask them questions all the times. So here we're dealing with a person that make all kind of commitments, and here we are in a clear differentiation between shvu'ah and neder, which is different term of oath. The neder, it's something that can fulfill only in something that is create a substantial דבר שיש בו ממש, something that you can apply, something that attached to. שבועה, matter of oath, is even in regard to sleeping, eating, and this type of commitment that the person made upon himself. So the Mishnah tells us on page 15b, today we're going to study page 16. 15b, the Mishnah said, שבועה שאיני ישן, שאיני מדבר, שאיני מהלך, אסור. So Rabbi Akiva Iger said, we just learned yesterday about a person, or can be a man with his wife, or wife said that she will not prohibited, or a husband, or vice versa. So is any application in that oath? And he said, since the Torah commanded the man, he is committed to that, so therefore ein chalot shvuah, you don't have any fulfillment of this type of oath, because it goes against the core mitzvah in the Torah. So if a person said, I make an oath, I take an oath that I will not sleep, or he said an oath that I will not speak, or I will not walk, so he's basically have the oath. Unlike neder, the oath doesn't have the to have a substantial something that you can use. It can be even just expression, sleeping, eating. If someone said to his fellow, "Korban lo ochal lecha," an offering, I shall not eat of yours, which means he said it's prohibited on me in the isur. It's like oath in the life of the offering. Shelo ochal eslecha, ha-korban she'ochal lecha. If he said ha-korban, this offering at which I eat of yours, or lo korban lo ochal lecha. In those days, the Ran said that lamed was with patach, which means lo korban. That's the language they used to say, I shall not eat of yours. So it says mutar, he can eat. Why? Because it's a language of neder and not language of shvuah. Mane matnitin, page 16. Whose opinion is in Mishnah? Said Rabbi Meir Omer. Remember, we studied Rabbi Meir on page 13, it's talking about kaf hadimyon, that even he said the word korban without kaf, ke korban, and oath with the korban is not attached, is not תופס. די רבי יהודה לא שנה לקורבן ולא שנה להקורבן. According to Rabbi Yehuda is the expression with hey, like. It's not. It's also allowed. אם הספר go to the less close, לקורבן לא אוכל לך מותר. לקורבן, ואתנן לקורבן לא אוכל לך מאיר עושה ברבי אבא או רבי אבא נעשה כאומר לקורבן יהיה לפיכך לא אוכל לך. אז הגמרא עושה לו קשיא, הדאמר לקורבן, הדאמר לא לקורבן, דלא הווה קורבן כאמר. Here you see the expression of the vower. If he said it's like not, it's like via negativa. So Reb Meir said that it's not. Moshe Feinstein explained this sugya, and he said, take for example a fellow that said, I commit myself to give $1,000 if I lose X amount of weight. I'll give X amount of dollars to tzedakah. So basically, if you follow Rabbi Meir, which we studied several days ago, if you follow the double Tnai, like Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, if you remember the negotiation of Moses to, in order for them to inherit the side of the Jordan, they need to commit themselves to partake of the war in the land of Canaan before they reach that part, or eastern part. So here the same thing. If you don't give, you have to give anyway. So it means you have to give even in that sense you didn't lose weight. Why? Because you may say that it's a commitment to tzedakah, it's commitment to tzedakah. So Moshe Feinstein said, if you look carefully here, you have to go by the language of people. And what the person meant by that is, it's only if you really lose. So in a sense, it's like the double conditions, the stipulations. If I will lose weight, then I will give. Meaning, if I will not lose, I will not give. So it's double stipulation both sides. Otherwise, it's not ineffective. So the Mishnah said, Shvu'a lo ochal lecha, ha-shvu'a she'ochal lecha. So again, a person taking oath, I will not eat of yours. So, or he said, it's oath that I'll eat of yours. So they said, lo shvu'a she'ochal lecha, or Ran said, la shvu'a. So that's, they said, michlal lav shomea hand, which means by using the via negativa, you understand the other way around. So, so the Ran explained that we have to differentiate between something involved with money and something that's not, because the truth is, if it's involved with money, based on Gemarrah in Shavuot 36, you have to hear it very clearly, lucidly from the person. Otherwise, they can say a lot of things that can be a hearsay. The truth of the matter, in continuation of this tractate, we learn about konam kikar ze life. If a person said, I commit myself that this piece of loaf of bread is upon me, so it's basically departed from his domain, and therefore his future generation will not inherit it. Because when it's come to mammon, the money, it's hefza. Michlal de'ashbo ashro chalecha ve'lo achilna mashma v'raminu. We learn in different Mishnah in Tractate Shavuot, page 19b. שבועות 2:4, שאוכל, שלא אוכל. שאכלתי ושלא אכלתי. מי דקאמר שלא אכל, שאכלתי ושלא אכלתי, בכלל דאוכל לך דאכיל למשמע. So here you see the language that he said, if he expressed that I take an oath that I will eat or not eat, it means that you have implication, I will not eat of yours. That's basically the opposite of what Mishnah said, she'ochal lecha, which is a language of all that not to eat of yours. So the Gemara said, Amar Rabbi she'ochal shte leshonot mashma, which is a double, it's a double meaning. Hayu mesarvin bo le'echol, ve'amar achilna achilna, you go to a simcha, you already went to 2 bar mitzvahs, now you go to a wedding, 2 hours later, and they push you, eat, 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 right? And they again and again. And you answered, and he said, yes, I eat. ותו שבועה שאוכל דאכיל ממש, למה? אבל אמר לא אכילנה, לא אכילנה, ותו אמר שבועה שאוכל דלא אכילנה, כמה? So it means he make an oath that he will not eat. And we meant to say that I take an oath if I eat by you. So you see here the way of the language, the expression, we can derive a lot of point from here. If you remember yesterday we talked about the get of Kliwa. So in Germany, if you remember, that's the idea is that groom was basically prohibited to eat, especially in the evening. And he ate at that eve of the wedding. And then all the consequences, so the disputation between the two parents of the groom and the bride is if that caused all the crisis, because it was a commitment, a vow that no one will force him to eat that night. It just led to whatever happened later. There is a Sephardic great posek by the name of Maharit. He dealt with the question, we have the Cherem de Rabbeinu Gershom upon Ashkenazim not to marry more than one wife. It was a fellow Sephardi that he have an affair with another woman. So when his wife find out, he's Sephardim allow. So he took an oath. And he said to her, I swear that I will not marry the other one, because Sephardi allow more than one. So it was back and forth. Eventually the first one left him. So now he went and he wants to marry the second one. So the question is, since he make an oath to the first one, that he will not marry the second one, so he said, look, I said it to her when we are together, but since she's left, so is that oath is conditional or not? So he dealt with that, the Maharit. Another option, Rav Ashi Amar, she'ochal dishvua, she'ochal kama. So again, he said that the she'ochal, which means there is an oath, that he said, Mishnah actually said that she'ochal, which means that I will not eat. So אם כן, פשיטה מיילה ממרה, it's obvious. מה עוד התאימה מקם לישנאי, דאיתקיל כמשמלן. So you may say that what he meant to say, that he is like stumble in his walk, in speaking, and he said that basically he swore to eat rather than to refrain from eating. So there is the Mishnah come to teach that because he say she or chal, this is a matter of oath that bind him to refrain from eating. אמר אביי לא אמרת כרב אשי ולא קטני שאם אוכל, because he didn't say רב אשי נדי מן טעם דאביי. רב אשי refused to follow the Mishnah according to אביי, כסבר שלא אוכל נע ממש משתי לשונות, which means there's a two meaning. היו מסרבים לו לאכול ואמר לו אכילנה, לא אכילנה, he said it twice, ואמרנה משבועה בין שאוכל בין שלא אוכל, הדן אכילנה משמע. ויקרא לתירוץ הנא מלישנא שבועה שלא אוכל שבועה דלא אכילנה כאמר, אלא תנא פסקה שאוכל דאכילנה משמע, שלא אוכל לא אוכל משמע. So the Tzur Yaakov asked a question, how far we say that in the matter of shvuah, if you repeat 2 times, for example, if he said 2 times, I commit myself shvuah she'ochal, that I eat. So what exactly the definition of the shvuah? So he basically, the idea of saying twice and express it, this is what I meant as a matter of oath, that basically bind him. The Mishnah said, זה חומר בשבועות בנדרים וחומר בנדרים בשבועות. Now we try to juxtapose oath to Nedarim and vice versa, because there are situations that you can go the other way around, that Neder is much serious than שבוע. כיצד? אמר קונם עלי סוכה שאני עושה לולב, שאני נוטל תפילין, שאני מניח, בנדרים אסור, בשבועות מותר. There are mitzvot that is a biblical mitzvot. For example, to put a tefillin. For example, to build a sukkah. To take a lulav, to have a bata meaning. So therefore, he make that commitment. He prohibited himself from putting tefillin. So if it's bendarim asur, which means he cannot violate his vow. So if he sat in a sukkah or carry lulav or put a tefillin, he deserved to get 40 malkot because he violated what the commandment said in the book of Bamidbar chapter 30, Lo yachel dvaro, he shall not profane his word. Bishvuat mutar, but if it's a matter of an oath, saying I'll swear not to delo sukkah, I swear I'll not take a lulav, I swear I'll not put on a tefillin, he is permitted to do it, mutar, she'en nishba'im la'avor al mitzvot. One cannot effect oath to transgress a mitzvah. So the Rambam, the Maimonides, ask a question. If someone take an oath, I will not eat challah on Shabbat. So what is going on? So the Rambam said that Shvuah is not fulfilled. The oath is not obligatory. Why? Because there are those who hold that it's like biblical, the Oraita. So there are those who derive from that it's rabbinic. The Torah did not say you should eat challah on Shabbat. So therefore, there are those who say that the Rambam hold that even by the rabbinic law, it's not effective oath. But the Rashba explained that the idea is that when a person makes such an oath, is the same as the Mishnah. For example, if someone has a bad dream and is in Shabbat, so basically we don't fast on Shabbat. And if the Rambam said if you fast on Shabbat, you need to fast again on Sunday for fasting on Shabbat, because we don't do that. So the question is, if you have this type of pleasure, for example, for eating challah, for example, for fasting, I say like against this bad dream, is that considering a part of pleasure of Shabbat or not? That's the point of the parsha of this Rambam that said that if a person commit himself not to eat challah on Shabbat, it's not a form of commitment because it's obligatory. 16b, Chomer Michlal de Nederu. Now the question is, since you use the word Chomer, the Shita Mekubetzet said Chomer meaning you have some type of stringency. So what does that mean? Ve'hamutar katane. We learn clearly the word mutar. It's permitted that to eat his fellow's food. So the Gemarrah responds, said, "Asefa leidach bevakame." Shvuah sheni yeshen sheni medaber sheni ba'alech asu. Person take a vow, I should not sleep, walk, or talk. So therefore, it's prohibited in the chomer mishvot b'nedarim. This is great stringency apply for oath more than darim. So that if someone said konam, that I sleep, konam, that I talk, etc., it's by a rabbinic law prohibited. But the idea is that oath, shvuah, is much stringent than the neder, because they have biblical fulfillment. Chom nadarim mishvot keitzad, Rav Kana matnei. Amar Rav Gidla Rav Rav Taviyunu ma'itnei, Amar Rav Gidla Rav Shmuel, minayin shenishba'im lavor al mitzvot. How do you know that they don't take one cannot derive, cannot effect an oath to violate the mitzvah? Talmud lomar lo yachel dvaro, he should not profane his word. Dvaro, aval lo yachel, aval miyachelu lecheftzei shamayim, but he can desecrate for the purpose of the heavenly wishes, which means you make an oath against the mitzvah of putting tefillin, of dwelling of tzukah. That's the idea. Ma'ishna neder dichtiv ish ki yidor l'Hashem lo yachel dvaro. Shvuana me'aktiv, or Yishava Shvuah Hashem, lo yachel dvaro, said the same language applies both. Why you differentiate? Amar Abaye had, Amar anat sukkah alai had, Amar Shvuah shlo yenem sukkah. You have to differentiate between if someone put a boundary against himself, saying that you should not have any derivative of joy from the sukkah, versus that he said that I will not, and all that I will not derive benefit from the sukkah. So it means that that's applied to a person. And we explained many times that we have to differentiate between gavra and chefza, between an item and things and a person. When it's come to a person cannot expunge, abrogate it from himself the mitzvah of the sukkah, because that's a biblical, that's one of the commitment that we make at the time of revelation in Sinai. Amar Rava v'chim mitzvot lehenot nitnu. So Rava asked, you mean to tell me that the mitzvot, the commandment, was given to us for the purpose of deriving benefit from them? It's not. So it means the benefit of the sukkah is upon me. He remains permitted to dwell in the sukkah for the sake of the mitzvah. El Amar Rava had Amar yeshivat sukkah alai, that I dwell in the sukkah. והדאמר שבועה שלא יושב בסוכה. Taken vow stating an oath that I will not dwell in the sukkah, which is again applied to a person. Again, we differentiate between an item and a person. So the question is, ונשבעים לעבור על המצוות, מאיך הנפקא לי? How do you know that one cannot take an effect of oath to transgress a mitzvah? מהתם נפקא לי לתניא, יכול נשבע לבטל את המצווה ולא ביטל, יכול להיות חייב. If someone may swear to violate a mitzvah and does not transgress it, so he should be liable for an offering for having desecrated his word. Page 17, Talmud לומר להרע או להיטיב. The Torah said in Leviticus 5 to do evil or to do good. So you have this juxtaposition of evil and good that is derived from the same way, which is מה, הטבה רשות, הפרעה רשות. The same way as just doing good, it's it permitted the same way as doing evil, it's permitted not, which means not to eat. So יצא, נשבע לבטל למצווה ולא ביטל שם הרשות בידו. If someone make a nullification so to nullify the mitzvah and does not nullify it, he is not liable of violating God. He is permitted to nullify not of his power. So the Gemara said, "Chad kra lemifterei mikorban shvuah." You have one pasuk, one verse you need to express the vow from offering normally incur for violating an oath. V'chad lemifterei min lav de shvuah, and the other one is to exempt him from the prohibition against violating an oath, which is usually you have this manner of malkot because he violated his own word, and you get it because it's called oath in vain, shvuat shav. That's the way Tosfot said.
Malachai, Yeshuloi, Malachai.